Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be doing a review as well as demos and swatches of the brand new Obsessions palettes by Huda Beauty, and they are the Wild Obsessions palettes which have been inspired by some animals. So there are 4 altogether. They retail at £27, which is the standard amount for Huda Beauty's Obsessions palettes nowadays because they all come in this plastic kind of packaging. So 3 of these first off can be bought from Feel Unique, Boots and various different Huda Beauty retailers. I got mine from Feel Unique because I have Huda Beauty set up as my brand for life, so I get an automatic 10% off. For some strange reason, and I don't understand why, the Wild Tiger one in the UK is only available at ASOS, and then I think in 1 or 2 Sephora's in different parts of the world. So these are really easy to get your hands on, and this not so much. I don't understand the logic and reasoning behind that. If it's a full 4 palette collection, surely you should be able to buy all 4 palettes, right? First off, my usual bugbear with Huda Beauty is this constant need for this plastic unnecessary packaging. Again, I mention it in so many of my Huda Beauty videos, and I do know that she watches them now and then. There's no need for these. It's a waste. You know, we're trying to take care of the environment these days, do what we can do, and this is just something very unnecessary. Now I know you can recycle them, but there's still no need for it. It's literally pointless. It's clear, you know, it's got is some ingredients on the back, but it's not really necessary, and it damages the nails as well. So what I really love about Huda Beauty's Obsessions packaging is that they're always a little bit different, and you can see why you pay £27 for this kind of packaging. This is the Wild Chameleon one, and as you can see, as I'm moving it, it's like holographic and it changes, and that's really cool. They're all like that, so I'll quickly show you all 4 of them. This is the Tiger one. This is the Python one. And then this one is the Jaguar one. It's a little bit more subtle. Now, whenever Huda Beauty comes out with a new range of Obsessions palettes, and she normally releases them in 4s, I always generally tend to get them. I absolutely love Huda Beauty's eyeshadows in general. I think the quality is excellent, and I always tend to buy the Obsessions palettes. I've got pretty much all of them. I'd say maybe 1 or 2 I don't have, so I always end up buying new ones. And as much as I don't buy as much new makeup these days, when something is released by Huda Beauty, I generally tend to buy it because I love the quality of her brand, and I also like the way that the colours have been made up in each palette. Now, for example, the first one here we've got is Jaguar. Jaguar is a very cool toned palette, and in each one of these there appears to be 3 different types of textures. So you've got matte shades, you've got like these foiled shimmery shades, and then you've got this more kind of iridescent sort of topper. So this is a kind of cool toned palette, really nice mix of colours. You've got a light colour here, you've got a slightly lighter colour here, and then we go dark and darker, and then you've got some shimmery shades in between to add a little bit of glitz and glam. With the Tiger one, bear in mind I am going to do swatches of these. This is very reminiscent of the Cult Beauty exclusive gold palette, and I think that's more so just because of the actual colour of the packaging itself is very similar. However, I do find the shades to be very, very, very different. There's no mauve in here, firstly, and there is a mauve in that one, remember. And obviously you've got a yellow, you've got more tigery kind of colours, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matte shades, you've got 3 of the foiled shimmery shades, and then you've got 1 of the iridescent in the middle as well. And then the Python one right here, again you've got 5 matte shades, you've got 3 of the foiled shimmery shades and 1 iridescent one. A nice, very, very unique, very different mix of colours, and I'm using quite a lot of them, as you can see on my eyelid today. So I really like this one. This one is very kind of summery sort of feel to it. And then probably the one with my favourite packaging, just because that's so colourful and bright, is the Wild Chameleon one. And then inside here you've got lots of warm shades. You've got, again, 5 matte shades, you've got 3 shimmery shades, you've got 1 which is like one of those marbly type ones, and then you've got an iridescent shade in the corner. So overall, I'd say with all of these palettes you've got a really nice mix of shades in here. The one thing that I would say is that I noticed that there's not a single very, very light shade. I did struggle to find something to go on my brow bone, but generally speaking the majority of the shimmery shades are on the darker side, meaning you can't really use them to highlight necessarily if you've got medium or light skin tone. If you've got a deeper skin tone, you probably can get away with it, but I just thought I'd mention that anyway. I like the mix of colours. I like the fact that there are light matte colours and deep matte colours, and then you can go in with a shimmery shade on the lid, so you can mix and match as much as you want. One thing that I would say is there seems to be an almost repeat shade in every single one of these palettes. If you look closely, there's a dark brown here, there's another dark brown in the corner there, You've got another dark brown there. And then you've got a kind of dark browny, purpley eggplant sort of colour here. So in each one there is a very similar shade. However, again, it's not intentional. Like Huda Beauty is not going to put them together on the assumption you're going to buy all 4 of the palettes. So I suppose it's one of those shades that should be in every palette. It's not necessarily a black, because not everybody likes to use black to smoke out their eyes. Like I've smoked out my eyes, but I use the brown shades. So at least you've got that classic brown shade within here. If I haven't mentioned already, there's a mirror on the inside, which is a pretty decent mirror. And these are always very robust and sturdy, great for traveling. Alright, so we're going to start off with the Chameleon one first. And I'm going to swatch this shade here. So this first shade here is like a corally kind of orangey sort of shade, and it's matte, great quality, very easy to blend, not patchy at all, and highly pigmented. This is the next shade here, and this is like a plummy red shade. Again, it's matte. It is a little bit more difficult to blend, as you can see with the swatches in comparison to each other, but it's not that difficult. But I just thought I'd mention that. And this is the kind of colour that also tends to stain the eye, so bear in mind you need to use oil-based makeup removers to take it off. This is the next shade here. This is the only marbled one out of the entire collection. So this is one of the foiled colours, and I don't even need to say anything. Look at that colour. Look at the quality of the swatch as well. It's nice and thick and opaque, easy to blend. The colour is absolutely stunning. Such a unique kind of reddish cranberry colour. Look amazing for the upcoming fall and autumn season. This is the next shade right here, and this colour is like a brownish plummy colour, which would complement all the other shades really nicely. Again, it is matte, and you need to be careful with this one. This one's also slightly difficult to blend like that one. However, I didn't find it too difficult. Overall, it's a really gorgeous colour, great to smoke out any look. And this is the next shade here. This one is another matte colour. This is the one that I think I'm using this in my crease today. It's a beautiful pale orange shade, but does show up really nicely against my medium skin tone. And the quality itself is excellent. It's easy to blend and it's not patchy at all. This is the next shade right here. I mean, honestly, these foiled shades are excellent, excellent. Definitely some of the best foiled shades I've ever tried, and I've tried a lot. Look at that colour, it's absolutely stunning. It's like a deep orange shade, highly pigmented, thick, opaque, and stunning. This is the next shade right here. Wow, look at this shade as well. What a gorgeous, bright, lilac-y, violet, bluish kind of colour. It's like a mixture of those. Again, it's a foiled shade, opaque, easy to blend, thick, full coverage, and gorgeous. This is the next shade here. This is another matte shade and a lovely warm toned coral shade with a hint of pink. It's matte, it's easy to blend, it's opaque, it's got great quality, it's not patchy, and it's beautiful. And then the final shade here, which is the only iridescent shade in the palette. And this is a beautiful warm toned classic gold shade. It's definitely a beautiful colour and pretty opaque. The only difference between this and the foiled shades is the foiled shades are a lot more thick in terms of consistency. This is very lightweight. Bear in mind that when you apply it with a brush, it will show up differently as to how you apply it with a finger. I would definitely suggest using your fingers to apply these iridescent shades to get the full opacity, or otherwise if you use a brush it will come up a lot more sheer. So this is the entire palette of the Wild Chameleon one, as you can see all together. It's a really kind of tropical sort of palette, but it's gorgeous and I think it's great. Alright, so now we're going to move on to the Wild Pythons palette and start off with this shade right here. Absolutely stunning, unique teal shade. This is one of the foiled ones. I actually don't find that this is as opaque as the ones in the other palette. I am using a lot of this palette on my eyes today, and I went kind of between using a brush and my finger, which I kind of did off camera so you didn't see, but I'm just going to mention it to you anyway. But the colour itself is absolutely stunning. Alright, now we're going to move on to this shade right here. Again, the quality is exactly the same as the other one. While they are shimmery looking, they're still not as opaque as the ones in the previous palette. This is a beautiful bright lime green shade. Again, it's better applied with your finger rather than with a brush. If you apply it with a brush, it'll be a bit more sheer. And then this is the next shade right here. This one is a really pretty greeny gold shade. This is what I'm actually using on my tear duct today. Again, same quality as the other shades. You can definitely tell that they are not as opaque as the previous palette. However, if you layer it a couple of times, it will kind of bring itself up to that same level. Then this is the next shade right here. Now this is like a greeny blue aquamarine sort of color, and it is a matte shade. Great quality, but you do have to blend it quite a bit for it to show up as much as the other shades. When it comes to kind of greens and blues, they can be a little bit difficult, but I like the fact that it's a little bit deeper. If it was lighter, it would have been an issue, but overall the color is really pretty. Now moving on to the only iridescent shade, which is in this palette in the middle. This one is very shimmery, and the quality is actually very similar to these three, even though they've got different textures. This one is very, very shimmery and iridescent, and best applied with the finger. This one is definitely a bit more on the teal side than this one. This one's more on the bluish teal side, but they do work hand in hand because I've got this and these three shades on my eyelids today, and they work really nicely together. This is the next shade right here. This color is like a deep charcoal brown color, and it is obviously matte. As you can see, it's very, very pigmented, very easy to blend, really nice deep shade to smoke any eye look out. And we've got this shade right here. Yeah, not the best shade. Look at it. Wow. Not really expected of Huda Beauty's eyeshadows, to be honest. I mean, this is a lime green matte shade, but the quality is terrible. It's really poor. I think it might only work well if you blend it with other shades, but on its own, terrible. Next shade is this one right here. And then in comparison, we've got an excellent shade right next to that. This beautiful corally orange shade is a matte shade, easy to blend, highly pigmented, not patchy at all. And then we've got the last shade right here in the corner. And then this one is a lovely warm brown matte shade, easy to blend, highly pigmented, perfect accompaniment to the other shades. And then this is all of the 9 eyeshadows all together. Look very kind of aquatic, right? Really nice colors overall. All right, let's now move on to the Wild Tiger palette and start off with this yellow shade right here. Now this is a really nice matte pale yellow shade. It's not too pale in that it just about works. You can see it's not patchy at all, very easy to blend. But this is a shade that you would definitely have to layer, because if you think about it against my skin tone, once I start to blend it, it will blend out into my skin tone. So it'll work well if you use it with other colors. Now let's move on to this shade right here. Absolutely beautiful gold copper shade in the foiled form. It's stunning, opaque, full coverage, and gorgeous. Moving on to this shade in the corner right here. This is a deep brown shade and it is matte. This one is a little bit difficult to blend, not gonna lie. I did struggle with this one. I had to blend it out with other colors. So I'm not a big fan of this shade, unfortunately. Moving on to this shade right here in the corner. This is another foiled shade. It's very intense, kind of truffle brown sort of color with other shades in it, like bits of red, pink, and gold. A very unique color, great quality. Next is this shade right here in the middle. So this is another one of the iridescent shades. The iridescent shades, by the way, are all two-toned. This one is gold and pink. Really gorgeous color, best layered with your finger, because like I said, otherwise it's a bit too sheer. It's completely up to you, obviously, how you want it applied on your eyes, but overall it's got great quality, excellent pigmentation. Next is this shade right here. This is a matte shade in a very pale yellowy beige color. This would just be best used, to be honest, to blend out other shades or to set your primer or to set your eyes. Next is this shade right here. This one is a foiled shade and a stunning bright yellow gold, excellent quality, highly pigmented and opaque. Next is this shade right here. This one is a beautiful pinky kind of brown shade, but more on the pink side. It's matte, excellent quality, easy to blend. And then last but not least is this shade here in the corner. This one is another matte shade and it is a warm medium toned orange color. Great quality, easy to blend and not patchy. So this is all together all of the shades from the Tiger palette, the Wild Tiger palette. So you can see them all, how they complement each other. Alright, so last but not least is the Wild Jaguar palette, and we're going to start off with this silver shade here in the corner. Absolutely stunning silver shade, foiled, amazing quality, thick in texture, and it's got little bits of pink sparkle within it as well. Next we've got this shade right here. This is definitely a very unique matte shade. Don't really come across these kind of shades often. It's like a grey mixed with kind of purple. Great quality, matte, easy to blend, and definitely opaque once you layer it up a bit. Next we've got this shade right here. This is another excellent foiled shade. This is like a mid-tone gold shade, and it's got different multicolored sparkles, bits of silver I can see in here. Great quality, easy to blend, fully opaque. Next we've got this shade right here. This one is a matte shade in like a deep plummy brown. It's very similar to the other shades that I've already mentioned to you guys that are in the other palettes. The quality is just not there. It's quite patchy and difficult to blend. I'm quite disappointed with all the 4 palettes of this similar kind of shade. They just don't seem to work so much. Now bear in mind I've done a finger swatch, so it's not so bad, but I've used it and it's difficult to blend. Next shade is this one here in the middle. This is one of the iridescent shades, and this one shifts between kind of silvery grey and purple and pink. Great quality, beautiful colour. Again, best built up with your finger rather than with a brush, but completely up to you as to how opaque you want it to be. Next is this very strange, odd looking colour over here. Can you see like chunks of black in here? How different. Wow, you guys, what a unique colour. It's like oil slick. It's like olive but grey but black, and then it's got shimmery different colours inside it. I've never come across a colour like this before. It's like an oil slick. I love it. Quality is obviously excellent too. Look at how thick and opaque that is. Next is this shade right here. So this is a matte shade. This is like a pinky beige. Great quality, but unfortunately, what can I really do with it against my skin tone? Not much, other than to use it to blend out other shades. This shade here, this black right down here. Not the best matte black I've ever come across. You can see how opaque it is, not that much. And it is on the slightly patchier and quite dry side as well. And this is the last and final shade right here. So this is another foiled shade. Unfortunately, it's not as thick as the other ones. This one's a little bit more on the sheerer side. It's got multi-dimensional colours inside, like pink and green and gold. And in terms of the colour, it's a very strange colour. It's like a mix between purple and maybe a bit of pink, but yet still a gorgeous colour. This is all of the Wild Jaguar Obsessions palette, so you can see how they look all together. I bet you're all thinking, well, we know she loves Huda Beauty. She's going to come out with great review. Well, very conflicting, to be honest. Each one of the palettes I've got very different views on, and as I go through them I'm going to put up my demo just so that you can see how I came up with this look anyway. So first off, let's start off with the Wild Chameleon palette. Now I think that this definitely performs really nicely. I like the colour mix as well. It's a very kind of tropical sort of palette. You can wear it to go out in the evening, you can wear it during the daytime. It's really nice. The quality of the shadows of this is actually really good as well. I'm quite impressed with this one. I'd probably say this one is one of the better performing ones out of all 4 of them. And now if we move on to the Wild Obsessions palettes, again the colours are not too bad, they're okay. And I would definitely say, again, obviously the foiled shades perform really nicely. The matte shades are almost slightly pointless because 2 of the yellowy beigey shades will pretty much not really show up. The dark shade's quite patchy, and then you're just relying on the 2 other remaining shades, which kind of like, well, I've spent £27 on 9 eyeshadows. I want all 9 to be excellent. I can maybe allow 1, but not all of them. Now the Wild Python one is probably the biggest or the most disappointing one out of all of the palettes, I would personally say. I mean, the foiled shadows are just not on par with the other foiled shadows, which I'm quite surprised about because foiled shadows are generally not that difficult to make. If you've already managed to make them successfully in the past, I don't understand why that same quality cannot be repeated. Now, that's not to say that the foiled shadows are bad. It's just that you've already shown me you can do it well. So why would I then assume that these would be anything other than like the other ones? Am I right? So I am a little bit disappointed in terms of the quality of the foiled shadows. Then we've got that limey green colour. Like, I mean, you can't really do much with it. It won't really work with anything. And unfortunately, I also find that because of the way that the matte shades are made, if you mix them together, they're going to look very muddy on your eyes. If you mix something with like green along with the orange, it's going to turn into some sort of muddy brown color. So I don't think also that all of these shades can necessarily be used with each other. I've obviously used a lot of these eyeshadows on my eyes today, and I've managed to show how you can incorporate them with each other, but I've also been very careful in how I layered them so that I didn't muddy them up. So I'm not that happy necessarily with the Wild Python palette. Now, the Wild Jaguar palette is definitely a very unique palette. It does remind me a little bit of one of the original ones. I think it was called a smoky one or something like that. Not gonna lie, the quality of that one was excellent. I remember there was a black in that. Perfection. This black is patchy and it's very drying and has that kind of feel to it where it'll start to wear off throughout the day. And then the shimmery shades are so-so. Some of them are good in here, some of them not so much. And again, the quality just does not seem to really be here, even in terms of the brown shade as well. And then all you're really left with is the shimmery shades. Now, in order to create the perfect kind of eye look, rule of thumb is that you need to have a matte shade in your crease, and then you put the shimmery shade on your eyelid. That won't happen very well with this one, so I'm slightly disappointed as well. Now, if I have to, really difficult obviously for me, normally I would say blanket 10 out of 10 for all of them, which I've done in the past, but I think I'm gonna have to break it down on an individual basis for this review in particular. Now, the Wild Chameleon palette, I would probably give this one a 9 out of 10. This one is probably my favorite in terms of quality, not necessarily color, but in terms of quality, I would definitely give this one a 9 out of 10. The Wild one, I'd probably give a 7 out of 10. The foiled shadows generally tend to save this quite a bit, and the fact that you've got a really nice orange and you've got this terracotta coral kind of color, which works really nicely. And even though this mustardy yellowy kind of color is kind of not that great, it will still show up on my skin tone and work well with the other matte shades in here. So in that respect, I'll give this a 7 out of 10. This is probably the one that I'm the most disappointed about, and I guess I'm going to say the reason why is because I had high expectations for it. It's a very different kind of palette. It's very unique in terms of the kind of colors. You've got like these bright peacocky colors that I've got on my eyes, but it's just that the quality is not there. So even though the shades themselves are very nice shades, when you look at it, you're like, wow, that looks gorgeous. The lime green lets it down. This aquamarine color is patchy as well, it lets it down. The dark brown is patchy and it lets it down. So all you're really left with, again, is an orangey brown color. And it's all the orangey brown colors in these palettes are really nice, but all the other ones not so great. So why is it that you've got one color which seems to work amazingly, but not so much with the other ones? The foiled shadows in this as well are not as thick and opaque and creamy as the other ones in the other palettes. So in that respect, I would expect a lot more. I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. And then we've got the Jaguar palette. Now, this is a very unique palette. Again, it's got some really nice, unique colors, and I'd probably give this one a 7 out of 10. The black lets it down, the dark brown lets it down. Then all you've got in terms of the matte shades is this pale pinky beige shade, which can't do much. And then you've got this really nice kind of grayish purple. Now, the grayish purple basically has to save all of the shimmery colors. So you're very limited in the kind of looks that you'll be able to come out with in terms of what you've got in your crease. The shimmery shades themselves are absolutely gorgeous, but again, not necessarily as opaque. The gold again seems to save the day, same as it has done in the other palettes, and I'm noticing this recurrent theme throughout all 4 of them. So overall, as much as I really wanted to like these, now don't get me wrong, I don't hate them, but I don't love them, and I wanted to love them purely because I know how good Huda Beauty's eyeshadows are in general. I think it may be because the brand has now got to a point where they've come out with how many of these now? 20? 25. There's so many, so obviously they're trying to come out with new colors all the time, and it can be very difficult to come up with new colors but have the quality as well. So hopefully this video will help you to make a decision about whether or not you are interested in getting any of these, or what the quality is like, or whether you want to invest in them. £27 is not a little bit of money, you guys. It's a lot of money for a teeny tiny palette which has got 9 eyeshadows in it altogether. So that's it for my review of the brand new Huda Beauty Wild Obsessions eyeshadow palettes. If you've got any comments or questions about any of these in particular, feel free to ask me below. Other than that, I hope you guys are amazing. I'm using Huda Beauty's Icon liquid lipstick on my lips today in case you're interested. And that's it. I'll see you all in the next video. Bye.